During this demonstration, you'll see the installation of skirting boards fitted around several different angled corners. To begin, the moulding is going to be returned around an external corner. This is simply achieved by cutting a mitre on each end of the skirting to allow the joint to close together to conceal the end grain. It also permits the profile on the timber to run continuously around the corner. To begin, use a pencil to indicate the cut end and direction of the mitre on both sections of timber. There are several methods of cutting the mitres required for skirting boards. The most commonly used in industry is with the use of a chop saw. Ensuring that the correct PPE is worn and the portable dust extractor is on, adjust the saw to an angle of 45 degrees and cut along the lines indicated on the edges on both pieces of skirting. Place both pieces of skirting back against the corner and bring them together to inspect the fit. Any adjustments to the joints can be completed with a block plane to ensure a tight fit. Use oval or lost head nails to secure the skirting board to the corner through the moulding. This will make the fixing positions less visible, resulting in a better finish. Securing the mitered joints with adhesive and nails will prevent the joints from opening up if movement should occur between the two sections of timber. Boring a small hole through the mitre or flattening the point of the nail will prevent the mitered joints from splitting as the fixing is driven into the timber. Use a nail punch to knock the heads of the nails below the surface of the timber before finally finishing the joint with some abrasive paper. If skirting board is required to return around an internal wall, it must be scribed at the corners to conceal the effects of shrinkage if it occurs. Measure the length of one internal side and transfer this dimension onto the back for length of skirting. Check the accuracy of the internal corners with a square. The angle of any obscure internal corners can be transferred onto the bottom edge of the skirting with a sliding bevel. The same sliding bevel is then used on the chop saw to replicate the angle of the internal corner with a straight saw cut. When using a chop saw to cut skirting board to length, always try to cut into the face side, as this prevents splintering on the visible side as the saw passes through the timber. Place the cut length of skirting in position and check the abutment to the other sides to ensure no visible gaps. Secure the skirting in position with several nails, leaving the head slightly raised. Place another length of skirting against the secured one and indicate the direction of the scribed joint with a pencil mark. The process of marking a scribed 90-degree joint begins with an internal mitre cut on the chop saw. Transfer the top corner of the internal mitre across the edge of the timber with a square before repeating the process on the bottom edge. Secure the skirting upside down in the vise and remark the line across the edge of the timber at a slight angle. This method of cutting along the line when the scribe is being formed, rather than cutting square to the face of the timber, ensures a tight fitting joint. Continue to use the tenon saw to make as many straight saw cuts as possible while rotating the skirting vertically. Use a coping saw to follow the edge of the mitered saw cut to remove the profiled area. Take care at this stage to ensure that the coping saw blade is cutting square to the face of the skirting, at the same time as raising the blade to undercut the joint. Measure the distance between the adjoining surface and the top edge of the skirting to determine the length of timber required. Position the skirting and check the fit of the joints before securing with several nails. This method of determining the angles required for a scribe joint can be used for obtuse or acute walls. Use an offcut of skirting to mark its width on the floor below both wall surfaces. Mark a pencil line between the intersecting lines on the floor and the corner of the wall. Adjust a sliding bevel to the line of the bisected angle and transfer it onto the top and bottom edges of the skirting. Adjust the chop saw to the same angle as the sliding bevel and cut an internal mitre on the adjoining piece of skirting. Adjust a sliding bevel to match the same angle as the internal corner and mark this angle on the cut end of the skirting. Repeat the method demonstrated to cut the other scribe, only this time the angle of the saw cuts will be slightly increased. Remember to undercut the scribe to ensure a tight fitting joint. The top edge of the scribe joint will be visible after the joint's been fitted, so it's important that this portion of the scribe is not undercut. Measure the length of the skirting required between the top edge of the existing skirting and the opposite side. Adjust a sliding bevel to the angle of the corner and mark this on the top and bottom edges of the moulding before cutting it to length. Place the skirting in position and check the fit of the joints before permanently securing to complete the installation.